We're the Young Indy Chroniclers podcast, and we're producing a new feature-length documentary, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age.
George Lucas was going to do this Lawrence of Arabia scale epic on a 16-millimeter budget.
You got a chance to have the same adventure making the show as what Indy was doing.
His stuff is really quite political.
You didn't think I was going to run, did you?
I learned that when George says he wants to ultimately change or fix something, that he was going to do it.
We built a Kickstarter campaign to support the film. Late pledges are available now at Kickstarter.com.
Hello there. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. This is your host, Anthony King, and each week I will be joined by fans, creators, and believers in the principles from the galaxy far, far away to discuss the thematical elements from our favorite Lucasfilm properties. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations, your cozy home for deep dive discussions at all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. And we have a fun, wild, wacky, adventurous episode for you all here this week. If you haven't heard, there is a brief, roughly 30-second cameo of George Lucas in the current film that's out in theaters right now, Minions and Monsters. And we are here to talk about it today at length. We're going to see how long we can go with it. It's kind of a challenge. A little bit of a joke, but tongue-in-cheek at the same time, as we celebrate this little brief cameo and go all in and very to wild places about where this conversation is going to be. So thank you all in advance for joining and being a part of this whole discussion here. And of course, we have a guest. We have Daniel Noa from the Young Indy Chroniclers podcast, as well as the upcoming documentary George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age, to discuss all things George in this cameo here. So I have also pre-recorded this episode, so I don't know the news that's taken place in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy over this past week. I do know that The Mandalorian and Grogu is now officially out on digital platforms ahead of the 4K and Blu-ray release. So if you have bought it already, good for you. I look forward to getting the physical copy, and I'm happy to wait another month here as well for that. But that's pretty cool. So glad to see that it's available to folks that maybe weren't able to go see it in the cinemas and all that. So that is basically all the news that I know of. We'll cover everything in next week's episode for anything that I might have missed in the interim here in this time frame. So with that, this is a spoiler conversation to some degree. So if you haven't seen Minions and Monsters, or if you're on the fence about seeing it, then maybe this is the episode for you. But if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Come right back to this moment. It's a spoiler conversation to some degree. So, we do touch upon the stuff that happens within the movie slightly, or, you don't want to know the details of the cameo beforehand. That's all entirely up to you. But also, I will also note that, you want to stay connected to Force Ghost Conversations over the next couple of weeks via our social media channels. So we're available on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, X, any place really that's popular for social media that has a platform. We're there to search for the title Force Ghost Conversations, and we'll be there because D23 is around the corner, and we will be boots on the ground, and we'll be reporting live directly from the Lucasfilm Pavilion and various other places where we are able to create Star Wars news and content for you all there. So we look forward to that. So if you want to follow along on the adventures, those are the appropriate places. We also have a Patreon where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to Force Ghost Conversations related goodies. At $3, you get an extra episode a month where we talk about wild and wacky things at length on the Patreon. And it's not just exclusive to Star Wars conversations as well. So links are in the episode description. So go check that out. We also have a TeePublic store where for as little as I don't even know the amounts anymore. They run sales so many all the times on that platform, but you can honestly get a lot of great Force Ghost Conversations goodies, such as hoodies, t-shirts, blankets, phone cases. They have so much stuff there you can throw our logo on, and it's pretty cool. And like I said, they run sales all the time on that platform, and some of the proceeds go directly to supporting the podcast and helping us grow. So it's a symbiotic relationship between everybody here. And all the links, of course, are in the episode description for all that stuff. So with that, let's get into our conversation with Daniel about George's cameo in Minions and Monsters. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Forrest Goes Conversations, your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties, and we're stretching that Lucasfilm adjacent title here this week. As promised in last week's riveting episode, I said at the end, we are talking Minions, so I gave you enough time to go to your local cinema and see the maybe 30-second cameo that is of the maker, George Lucas himself, in Minions and Monsters, the brand new film from Illumination and Universal Pictures, out in theaters. And we're going to see how long we can talk about this thing here. And of course, when I say we have a guest, and that is, of course, Mr. Daniel Noa from the Young Indy Chroniclers podcast and the upcoming documentary, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age. Daniel, welcome back to Forrest Coast Conversations, and how are you doing?
Good. Let's start the clock on the Minions.
That's right. We're almost at a minute in. At least without the ad that I have for you guys at the bumper, the intro, well, I'm pre-recording this, so there won't be any news. So, we're probably at like 3 minutes right now in total for this thing. Well, let's see how long we can drag out this conversation here. It's the wildest thing that we've talked about on the podcast so far. And I'm going to try to look for the weirder and wackier things in Star Wars to top this in the near future.
Well, before we go into the film, which has just come out, I feel like, to me, when I think of the Minions, I think of Star Wars. I think of the pit. Well, no, I'm saying when I think of the Minions,
okay.
Star Wars, I think of the pit droids. I feel like the episode 1 pit droids and the Minions,
it's the eyes, right,
are really similar. It's the eyes. It's the sort of language that's not a real language. They sort of that they have their own language.
An amalgam of every language and Italian together.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the pit droids are based on the Three Stooges. I would imagine the Minions are at least based on that same slapstick tradition of comedy, if not specifically the Three Stooges. So I see the great connection between the two franchises.
Whoever wrote the first Despicable Me film back in the day, do you think that they too, when they first wrote started writing the first draft in their home office, that they had a VHS set up to watch Buster Keaton films at the same time, like George did with The Phantom Menace? Do you think that was a similar thing that they did?
Well, it's funny because I love that we're going to do deep dive on Despicable Me. So Despicable Me, the original, of course, is very much about the character of Gru, right, played by Steve Carell. And the Minions are very much supporting players. A lot of people know by now that Illumination is based in France. And so it's a lot of French animators and storytelling in these films. And if you know anything about French children's entertainment, and plugging young Indiana Jones, in the episode where young Indy goes to Paris as a little boy, he sees, and I don't know the name, I'm sure there's a very specific name for this, but he sees this little French puppet show that is a big tradition in sort of, it's kind of like Sesame Street in that way. It's
they're very popular.
That French children really are into, and it is incredibly violent and slapsticky. So when you watch it, they're constantly hitting each other and throwing each other things and running into things, and the kids just love it. And I feel like that cultural history works its way into the Minions and this franchise. I feel like you can really see that DNA there.
Well, I think that's true. And I think George is a student of all things storytelling. So it would shock me if he wasn't aware of that French connection potentially to this, or at least the through lines.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure he is.
That might be some of the reason why this man is such a big fan of this property, but particularly Minions, apparently. And before we get really into this conversation here, I do have to address the elephant in the room, which is, Daniel, you have not seen actually the Minions.
I have not seen the film itself. That is true. But I did see the clip.
Yes, you did. You did track it down online enough to have this conversation here today. So what do you think about it? I guess first off, before we get into that, why haven't you seen the movie yet?
Well, I don't think I saw Despicable Me back in the day. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I think the only Illumination movie I saw in the theater was the Birds one. I don't remember the name of it, but I took my niece to see it. She was very into it. Had I been able to spend more time with her this summer, I think they went to see Toy Story 5 though. So even there, Minions wasn't necessarily the one they went to see. I don't tend to go to see animated movies by myself, and that's the way I would have had to do this. So it's the sort of thing where, especially with George having a cameo, I will totally check it out probably when it hits a streaming service. And I was tempted to go see it in preparation for this recording and simply weighed my options and chose not to.
So it's interesting. Yeah. So you haven't seen the film yet in its entirety. Hopefully when it hits that Peacock, then you'll be able to see it in its full context. But it's really, honestly, it's in like the first minute.
Oh, it's
the
that
movie.
early. It's at the beginning
So
of the movie.
I'll spoil it there. So you
just
could
gone to see the opening of the movie.
You could literally, I guess, walk into when you're seeing something else, maybe the Odyssey, perhaps this weekend, and then you just hop right in to like a Minion screening that's like just timed subsequently just a few minutes before that, and then go, oh my golly, I am in the wrong theater, and then walk right out and you'll have seen it all.
I have AMC A-list. I'm more than happy to make a reservation to go see Minions. It's just taking the time to go sit through the whole film by myself just didn't seem like the best use of my resources.
Now, are you a City Walk kind of AMCer, or do you go to the Burbank 4?
Only for IMAX. I went to see Mandalorian and Grogu in IMAX there. Spectacular. And what's cool is they've started doing the true IMAX ratio on even the digital film. So
nice.
Like Mando Grogu was even though it was
that
digital,
143, yeah,
it was 143. That's very special. I'm glad they're doing that, and I would love to see the Odyssey there, but I have no idea. So actually, obviously, this will air after I've seen it, but I'm going to go on Friday at 2 p.m. to Orange County. I'm driving to Disneyland because it's the only seat I could find to see an IMAX of the Odyssey. I had a seat booked for Thursday. We ended up having a shoot scheduled. I ended up canceling it. The shoot got canceled, and I lost my seat.
Of course.
So otherwise I could have just walked down the street. So now I will, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to not see it in the opening weekend. And I don't want to have to see it multiple times. Like I'm happy to see it multiple times if I like it, but I don't want to have to. So I'm going to see it in IMAX the first time.
No, it's interesting. So this movie, Minions and Monsters, since you're in the film business, you're co-director of the upcoming documentary George Lucas' Lost Golden Age. If I can sway you to even go see it in the theater still, as a person alone going to see an animated film, it's about the making of a movie. So it's like a very meta story of its own right. And it's like, have you seen Babylon?
Oh, I love Babylon.
This is Minions Babylon. Ironically, yes.
Which one is Margot Robbie?
One of them. James and Henry are the main lead Minions, and I don't know if either of them are would qualify, I guess, as the Margot Robbie character. Now, is there someone that qualifies as the Tobey Maguire character? I don't know. You'll have to see it for yourself. Yeah, he's very scary in the movie. But this is a star-studded cast aside from George in this movie. It's got the Allison Janney, which has a Star Tours connection that I learned about off air, which is kind of blowing my mind right now. I don't know how I'm able to be able to function.
For people who don't know, and if you go to Star Tours and you go to the waiting queue, the droid that's been giving you the briefing sort of since 2011 is voiced by Allison. Is it Janney or Janie? I don't know how you say it.
Janney, I think, yeah.
Allison Janney from The West Wing and many other things. And so the fact that she's voicing this character who has imprisoned the great George Lucas, there's some irony to that.
Yes, there's a lot of irony in that, and we'll get to that in a second here. But Jesse Eisenberg's in this movie. Trey Parker is the main villain lead in this thing. John Goodman's in this thing. I feel like I'm missing some other. Christoph Waltz is in the movie. There is Phil Lamar, Zoe Deutsch. It's another Star Wars connection. Bobby Moynihan also in this. There is a very much a who's who of I'm like, I've seen the credits roll at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, who else? Who's not in this movie? Why are they all joining up on the Minions bandwagon here? And I guess it's just because people love it so much.
Everybody loves the Minions. No, Minions are great. I mean, internationally, I remember going to Costa Rica in 2015, and there were giant billboards for the Minions, and someone told me the Minions are hugely popular here. They're more popular than Mickey Mouse.
Really? Wonder why? Because they're so cute and lovable?
I think that because they don't speak a language, they translate
universal?
well. Yeah, because you don't have to hear a dubbed performance of another person. It's the same performance, right, around the world. And I think something about that people really resonate with.
Well, it resonates with the maker, George Lucas. And if it speaks to an international audience, Why do you think it speaks to an 80-year-old man so much?
Well, George has always loved. I mean, I feel like there was actually some clips recently I got to see. I saved them from the Detours writers' room, and I feel like these were brand new. I'd never seen them before. There's one. It's kind of like they were all making fun, the different writers, and one of the guys does a Boss Nass impression, right, with the whole thing, and George on his own says something like, occasionally, I do feel bad about some of the things I've done. That's one of those things.
A good tongue-in-cheek kind of character he is.
You know?
He
And I
also
love
had
it.
a prime moment for like I'm sure you've seen the one with Seth Green, with the Mara Jade, where he's like,
He was in that room.
out!
It's the same. It's the
Get
same room, and it's the same people. Like this must have been like a day of stuff, right? And so it's that room. It's those kind of people, and it's that exact setting. In fact, they have a clip that they're talking about the Mara Jade bit that they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, he's going to say this. And you're like I guess they just were filming stuff in the Detours writers' room, and I'm sure they thought at the time, like, we'll use this as like marketing. Like when the show comes out, we'll have these little bits, that we can put out, or maybe even use it in the show. Who knows? I mean, I know the show. I've never seen the finished show, right? Maybe they had interstitials, and like, you'd see the little act, and then you'd see George and Seth Green, and they, say a joke or something. I don't know, right? And that would be great. And to your question, I think that's why the Minions might speak to him, because we forget that he produced a whole comedy animated show with a very similar style of humor and a similar animation style, right? Yeah. And so I think he probably looks at this and goes, this is very similar to something I wanted to do, and I enjoy this, and I like this art form.
Well, someone that's always been, daring to be cute, and I can see the through line from Ewoks to Minions.
Yes.
Right? Like, the underestimated, cuddly, adorable, nameless characters that save the world in many ways, which is what kind of the Minions do throughout all these movies, while being diabolical and serving evil people along the same time. Like they've shown them supporting Napoleon and various other Genghis Khan, other leaders throughout history that have done terrible things, but they've been there like foiling them at the end of the day too.
Well, I love the design of the Minions, because they're very cute. I mean, they have the giant one that looks over Universal Studios right down the street. Yeah. They're incredibly cute, but they're also nefarious, right? And there's something about that that's charming. Like if they were just cute Care Bears, it would be cute. It would be like, oh yeah, they're cute. They're in trouble. Oh no, But because the Minions are sort of diabolical and like would just as soon, poison the water to your town or bulldoze your school if they thought it was in their interest, but they're also cute. There's something weirdly charming about that I think is a key to their appeal.
So to spoil the movie a little bit for you here, George is in a museum, and it plays into it's a museum about Hollywood, and that's where it plays into. They eventually get to like a cast cutout of James and Henry, who are the two Minions, and then Allison Janney then tells the story of how they helped form Hollywood back in the day when the talkies were coming out and all that. So hence where the Babylon comes out. So it's then like a flashback to that time period, of course. But then George is actually live and stuck inside a glass case of emotion, so to speak, with his coffee, and he has no other form of entertainment. He asks for a cell phone. And they're like, nope, sorry, George. And he's literally stuck in there. Why do you think that was the cameo that they chose for George here? Is he just becoming a museum relic at this point? What are they trying to make with that?
I'm sure they, as I understand it, he spoke to Chris Meledandri a couple of years ago. The idea of him being in the movie came up. I'm sure it was a result. Like I'm sure they shared with him that the idea had something to do with Hollywood and filmmaking, right? And I'm sure that's where the idea comes from. Oh, well, if it's about Hollywood and filmmaking, is there some way, that's interesting. And then I'm sure the museum was obviously part of the concept.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so maybe in just discussing that with him, I mean, it could have been his idea where he was like, oh, you should stick me in the museum like I'm a relic. Or someone else could have said, how do you feel about, and who knows, right? But I see the logic to it of like, we're presenting the story of Hollywood. You could be a part of that. And also the fact that you're building a museum as well. And so there's sort of an angle that, now parents can tell their kids, oh, yeah, he's building a museum too. There's great cross-promotional opportunities there.
Indeed. And I will also add too, like there's exhibits before they get to George include the orca from Jaws is there. And then there's a scene of the flying bikes from E.T., so the Spielberg connection too. So it all comes back to Indy. The DNA of all those are here, but also, Universal is very much the foundation that Spielberg built in the late 70s and beyond. The man gets like $2 for every ticket sold at Universal, so he gets a lot of money from the Universal team over the years. So it's nice having all that connective tissue there, and I think there is that meta aspect to it, whether they really thought it through or not, but it's kind of funny with the release being 2 months prior to the formal official release of the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. And I'm curious, will this be maybe one of the first films screened at the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art?
We have no way to know. They just announced the head of film programs. He's on Instagram. I forget his name at the moment. I imagine he would
You're tracking him down and be like, George Lucas Lost Golden Age?
Have you heard of George Lucas Lost Golden Age? I'm sure those will be decisions. I'm very excited to see the program. I assume there will be one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something they've discussed or announced amidst all of this. So we'll have to wait and see. We do know about Star Wars in Motion. I imagine that will be a huge focus in one of the theaters at first, and maybe they'll sort of launch the standing exhibits before they do any sort of curated program. Right? That would make sense.
Yeah.
Look, they've been targeting this date for a long time. I'm sure not everything is 100% ready. Right? It never is. So I'm sure it's going to be okay. We're going to launch. This is how we're going to launch, and then we got more to do later.
It's curious that they also announced concurrently that will come out starting this February, that 50th anniversary Star Wars exhibit that will be touring the country. Now, we don't know fully what artifacts will be a part of that exhibition, props, concept art, posters, whatever that they want to throw in there. It's curious that the museum is also opening at the same time that will house the Lucasfilm archives, which theoretically is what they're using to populate that exhibit.
Well, it's funny because we can talk about that. I know something about the way that works, and I think it's fascinating. Lucas, in his deal with Disney, retained ownership of his collection, which is not intuitive. you would think, you're selling Star Wars to Disney, that they're going to get all the Star Wars, but they didn't, and he didn't, and that's sort of in a corporate, arcana, because it's like, well, he sold his company, Lucasfilm. Well, Lucasfilm owned whatever Lucasfilm owned at the time, and as the owner, if George said, well, my collection belongs to a different company that I've set up called something else, whatever it may be, that's done. That deal is made. I'm not selling you that company, right? So he may, in fact, have given himself all of the rights he's using to do this before he sold the company. It's not like Disney may have said he could. It's like, well, I said I could. I'm willing to sell you all of this, right?
Right.
And they took it, And there have been rumors for years about this. I think we've all been hearing a game of telephone, people were saying George owns all the original Star Wars stuff, so Disney wants to make Galaxy's Edge sequel trilogy so they can sell their own stuff. I don't think that's literally true, but there is some truth in that. Because George owns this collection, we have seen merchandising from the museum with a speeder bike on it, with a stormtrooper on it, with a Naboo starfighter on it. I don't think he's licensing
rolling ball thing.
I don't think he's licensing that from Disney. I think he has the right to make those. And so to that point, from a consumer products standpoint, yes, you don't want to be in a business where anything you can make, another guy has the right to make too. So then there is some logic to well, let's change it. Let's modify it. Let's put a square dish on the Millennium Falcon so we can sell a Millennium Falcon that's ours, right? That is not crazy, at that point. But it's also coming, you mentioned the tour, but it's coming at a sort of a lull in Star Wars, right? By no one's intention, but it just is. And so, there's going to be these merchandise and these things sold from the museum there's going to be a lot of excitement for that, I think, from Star Wars fans. And it's going to have room to breathe. It's not going to be competing with the new Mandalorian season or, the new Darth Maul thing. It's going to sort of be able to stand on its own.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be really interesting. I'm excited to see the exhibit. I might take a trip up to my home state of Pennsylvania just to go see it. It'd be wonderful at the Franklin Institute, which is a world-class museum already.
Do you know if the is it sponsored by Lucasfilm?
I would assume so because they posted about it on their website.
Could also be an independent, could be a partnership.
Could be a partnership of sorts, yeah.
Something I learned, when working at a prop store for a little bit is if a private collector owns something, they own it, right? So they have the right to put it on tour or loan it out to an exhibition. So like there could be items and collections out there that are not necessarily owned by Lucasfilm or George, but are available and can be
maybe we went to Rancho Obi-Wan and asked for a series of items. I know they're trying to build that Saga museum too in the next couple of years. Are you
coming out to the Lucas Museum? I know you joined.
Nope, no, not at least to start. There'll be probably a Star Wars Celebration.
So in April. All right, well, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm very excited. I mean, I may have said this on your show before, but they released a photo of the Revenge of the Sith Vader costume on display. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so excited to see that person. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, knowing that Hayden was in the suit too, and that they made that suit in a way that like Vader was to grow into it. You know,
it's very skinny. It's skinny Vader.
It's skinny. It's a year zero Vader of sorts. Yeah. I love it. It's still like it feels like it has that new car smell to it, right? Like, you know, he's stumbling coming out of that like new birth scene that he has, and he's stumbling around, like you can really see him like breaking in the leather. Yeah. Like it's real stiff. It needs to be honed in to his specifications, and then by the time you get to New Hope and Rogue One, right, then you see like the eyes be like red, and he's modified it a little bit, and then of course they do that throughout the years.
But I mean, here's a nerd question for you: does Darth Vader lift weights?
No. I'm gonna say no. I don't think he needs to.
How do you think he works? Do you think he uses the Force to grow his muscles? Like, what's
how does he get bigger?
Because he gets bigger. I mean, it's obvious that he gets bigger.
I think the Force can help build muscles. If I'm just grasping at straws here, I think the Force. I think he has a robust diet of, you know, I don't know what Vader eats. If he does eat,
right.
But I'm sure he's getting like the best diet pumped into him if he does eat. In the back to tank or something like that. I'm sure there's a feeding process here of sorts. And then through that, I'm sure that, you know, the Force works in mysterious ways. He's allowed to get older and buffer. You know, he hit those 30s and the metabolism started going away. So Vader hit, you know, midlife Vader was what we saw in A New Hope. And
well, it's funny because I always forget, like, I think based on Anakin's age,
he's 46 when he died.
He's in his 40s in the original trilogy, right? Yeah, so like I'm getting close to Darth Vader age.
Well, it's funny because I think Hayden now is the age that he would be. So in my head, when people are always like, "Oh, it should be Sebastian Shaw at the end of," and I'm like, "Nope." If by canonical age, you know, he's still Hayden. God bless his soul. Still looks very similar to he aged pretty well over the last 20 years.
Shaw was always too old. I think that's
always
why
too old.
A lot of, you know, old school Gen X fans, and even in Timothy Zahn's books, you know, they always dated the Clone Wars much older
and longer
because of his age. But people recently brought up a good point. Said, well, fine, but Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were always supposed to be young, like late teenagers. So like, how does that make sense? Like, you know, it was always supposed to be one way or another their lifespan. Like Darth Vader, you know, couldn't have turned. It's not like he had them after he turned evil.
Yeah, right.
So like that was obvious from the films, you know. So I don't know if the thought was in their minds, oh, the Clone Wars happened before and then later on. I don't know. Right?
He was 40 when he had those kids and then turned to evil.
Yeah, right. He was an older man. I mean, yeah, I guess, but it's just it doesn't really make sense that way, you know.
It doesn't. No.
I'm a fan of the story we got. I know a lot of people aren't, but like I'm a fan of it. I think the poetry of it, the fact that Anakin and Luke are of similar age when they go through their sort of respective trial, and it's Anakin like fails. Yeah, and I think there's something about that is like a great. It's like the Odyssey. It's a great epic tale, right? And it's very sort of simple and like broad, and it has all these things about it. But it's at the end of the day, it's sort of a very simple story. I love that.
I know it's funny. It was like, you know, with the re-release coming up for the 50th anniversary, and I think you and I both had the same sentiment of like, oh, do I have to see the theatrical version in theaters?
I know. I'm so disappointed. I mean, like I said, I'll see it. You know, I want to support everything, but I really hope it was not done against George's wishes.
I hope so too.
That's my only thing.
I really do too. And you know, I was okay with like the one-off screening they do at like the Academy Museum of
of course.
'81 print that they found that they remastered. And I was like, great, have that for your posterity, put it in the museum, have an archive, show it every now and then. But wide release of this, and maybe they'll release it as like a Blu-ray feature or something like that on a special disc later on. But I hope people don't just
because
go,
if you think about
this is the canon now.
Well, if you think about it, well, that does create a lot of problems. I mean, actually, if you look at Superman movies, there's a number of franchises where a lack of sort of deciding of which version is the version creates a lot of problems.
Creates a lot of problems, yeah.
But when you think about like the work, so when you talk about those prints that they showed, yes, they took an old print and they showed it, right? Mm-hmm. You can't deny, yes, there was a print.
It existed. Someone had it in their house.
And we're going to watch it, right?
Yep.
But you're talking about a restoration for IMAX.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So someone is making creative decisions about color timing and clean up and blow up and all that.
Yep.
And it does bother me that the director is alive, but I'm sure not involved.
And so very much not as far as we know, happy with the concept of that.
You're presenting some guy, some anonymous person, I don't know who it is, their version of George Lucas's 1977 film.
Yeah.
Right? It's a fan remaster, right?
Basically, you might as well watch 4K 77 or something like that. Yeah,
which is cool. And I love those guys. I support their ability to do that. Right, that's cool. But it's like, I had the same feeling, by the way, when they announced, when Disney bought Star Wars, and I was sort of like interested and skeptical, and at the time George was going to be involved, so I was comforted by that. But somebody was like, they were just so happy that George Lucas wasn't going to be making. I won't name them. Like, I can tell you who they were. They were a podcaster at the time, but he wasn't making decisions on Star Wars anymore.
They weren't the only ones with that feeling out there in the world. I remember.
And I remember saying, "Well, wait a minute. So who is going to be in charge of Star Wars? You're saying you would rather a corporation, like a faceless corporation, should be deciding what Star Wars is because you happen not to like George Lucas's take on his own thing?" I never understood it, and I never understood the sentiment. I think I've been borne out.
Yeah.
There's been some good, right? But it's just not consistent, right?
The box office they'll come at you with that one.
Well,
Money
yes.
talks.
Look, and I'm not saying. I guess what I'm not saying which is good and which is bad. I'm just saying at this point, I think we can all agree.
And that was a fair comment when you were
bag.
experiencing that back then, right? Because I think there is a famous, or I don't know if it's famous or not, but it spoke to me in Parks and Rec. There is a time where Ben Wyatt, what's his name, Adam Scott's character, is getting a massage, and like, man, you have a lot of knots in your back. What are you stressed about? I was like, oh, Star Wars Episode 7's coming out. I was like, that was me, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting here. I don't know if there's going to be a crawl. I don't know if John Williams is going to be scoring this thing. He's still alive. What's the through line? Is George going to be involved at all? Are they just going to use it as prequel hate fest? Are they going to use it to erase the prequels? Are prequels even going to be considered canon at all up to this point? I don't know. And as soon as I sit there on opening night for Episode 7, I got two dimwit kids behind me being like, well, hopefully it'll be better than episodes 1, 2, or 3. It can't be any worse than that. And I was like, hey, those movies rock. And just let it be. That's right. That's right. I'll look back. Yup, nub to you.
I'm going to find it. So it's not on the internet anymore, but it was for years. So Coffee with Kenobi, which is still around.
Yes. Yeah, Dan.
They published, at the time they had a blog and they were publishing people. And I wrote a review of The Force Awakens, which they published in 2 parts. And I want to say it was one of 4, and I say 4 negative reviews of that movie on the internet. Yeah. Like, you could do a Google search for all reviews of The Force Awakens, and there were only 4 negative ones. And I only remember one of the others, which was Scott Mendelson's reviews. Mm-hmm. I was at Forbes for a very long time. He's still writing, and I will do anything for Scott forever, because he's the only people that was brave enough to have my position on The Force Awakens in December of 2015.
Hey man, the free press. That's
that's Barry Weiss.
That's the point. But no, that's great. Hey, we wouldn't be a podcast if it wasn't for Dan and Coffee with Kenobi over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, absolutely. He's very much the core DNA of what why we're doing this podcast here today. So So
I always thought it was
full circle
cool
moment.
that they were publishing and that they would publish me. You know, like they didn't have to do that. You know, they didn't have to have a negative voice. So I appreciated that a lot.
Well, I don't know if it's a negative voice per se, but it's just criticism, right? I mean, that's healthy, right? No one needs to be 100% all in on everything. I'm sure there were aspects of it that you liked too. Like, you know, it didn't have to all be bad.
There were, and actually, I think in retrospect, even I always say that first third of that movie always works better for me than I expect to.
Yeah, see?
So,
Okay. Well, back to the minions of it all. I know George is like clamoring to get back into the saddle for this. Where do you think that he could possibly...
Oh, you mean like more George appearances?
Apparently he wants to be involved more, whether it's George himself or him just voicing a character. Do you think...
Like in Minions or like broadly? Like George would like to appear?
I think in the Minions Despicable Me franchise, I think that's the place that he's trying to get his a stake in the game.
Well, I thought he's quite good. Like some people can't really act. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like some people you put them in there, it's just silly. He's surprisingly good, and he's actually gotten a lot better. Like if Rebel Force Radio did a great piece this last week on all of the cameos of George Lucas.
There's Beverly Hills Cop 2.
They had Beverly Hills Cop, which I did not realize was John Landis, which totally makes sense why he did it. But he's not that great in that. Like he's just his delivery is a little like
he's reading a cue card off to the side.
But like when you get to Robot Chicken and you get to he's great in that. I don't know, maybe it's because it's animation, he can read it, but his delivery is really good and funny.
Yeah.
His timing is good, So this has that same energy where he's delivering it. It's funny. It feels right. Like I would love if they could make George Lucas a recurring character in the Minions universe, as George.
Great.
Lucas, right?
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny. I don't know how you fit that into the
Imagine
story.
Steve Carell and Gru voice. George Lucas.
Well, okay, if you're going to give me that, can George Lucas be like, can we do a Despicable Me and he's like a major supporting character? Can he be the Rada the Hutt of the next Despicable Me movie? Because I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it. I don't know what the plot is. Maybe Gru is going to break into Skywalker Ranch because it's the only place, or they have to go get something back. George sold Star Wars, and with it, this powerful thing by accident, and it's like, well, we got to go get it.
It's really just fanboys animated.
Right,
trying
like
to
a
get the
heist
next
movie
script. Yeah.
with George Lucas on the crew, right, to make pull a heist, and with Gru, right?
That's right.
I'm in. I think that would be such a crossover hit because you'd get all the Star Wars fans and the Despicable Me fans, right?
You would think. Unfortunately, this film is not doing as well as the other Minions films, even though it's
because they didn't promote the. No, I'm just kidding.
They did not. They did not give enough leeway to tell people that this George Lucas cameo was in it. I think it came out like 3 days before the actual film.
It did come out late.
Yeah,
I don't. Maybe it was in late. I don't know. But I will say this one, and I heard someone say this on the podcast. Like, it does feel like there's a lot of of Minions movies, and this one didn't feel very differentiated. And I know we're going to do a Patreon about the state of Hollywood. Let me tease that a little bit by saying I do think a lot of the consolidation and the layoffs have hit marketing departments quite hard. And I think you're seeing some things happen, slip through the cracks, right? Things not. I mean, we'll talk about some of the examples on the Patreon episode. But I think it's quite clear that we're seeing an impact on the marketing side, and that can totally have an effect on the box office. I mean, look, I remember, I've worked in a couple marketing departments, heads of marketing, people who've been doing this for a long time. They're always like, look, people, marketing works. Like, there's a reason you have us here. We know we're expensive. We know it's money you don't want to spend.
But you make money.
Right. If it didn't work, you wouldn't do it. We wouldn't be here. There's no upside.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sucks. People, nobody wants to hear that at a studio. They want to like, well, we have a good product and people will come. They know this franchise, but it's like, no, like they got to hear about it. They got to know why now. They got to know why this one. They got to know all that.
Yep. Get me out to the theater.
I think Minions and Monsters. Like I saw a couple trailers like fairly late. I want to say maybe when I saw Supergirl. Not far out. I didn't have awareness of this a couple months out. Oh, there's going to be a Minions movie this summer. Oh, it's about the film business. Oh, I'm a filmmaker. I didn't have that time to like process it that way. I saw it a couple weeks before it came out and dismissed it from my mind.
Yeah, they did not advertise it as it's Minions Babylon.
Right. I mean, that would be cool. Like, could you have Brad Pitt and like, a minion that looked like Brad Pitt and like,
Which I think
do
would
the
have
whole
sold really
thing?
well in like Hollywood, especially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make movies about Hollywood are hard. Like, the only times they really work is like if Hollywood loves them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the average person isn't as connected to it. That's why
Oh,
Babylon,
really?
which I loved, didn't work.
Oh, 1 second
commercially.
of Raiders of the Lost Ark in it.
Did it at the
Yeah,
end?
in the end montage.
montage?
There's
Oh,
one.
that
There's the sequence of the.
Yeah, when he's watching all the movies.
Well, yeah, he's watching it, and then there's the scene of from the end of the movie where they when they open up the ark and it shoots up into the sky.
Nice.
I'm like, I was the Leo meme in it. So
Yeah,
there it is.
yeah.
As
By
I
the
just
way,
spent 3 hours watching this incredible movie.
Well, I'm watching Christopher Nolan movies in preparation of the Odyssey. I'm having a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in Inception, and I'm like, man, this is a good movie. I haven't
really
seen
is.
this movie in a long time. Anyway, that's off.
Took me 2 views to really enjoy it and appreciate it, but I got there.
It may be true. I don't remember. Back when it came out, Tenet was that way for me. I don't know if you've ever seen Tenet.
Oh, of course.
It
of
took
course.
me 2 viewings to really get Tenet, but I love Tenet.
The sound design on Tenet's the harder part, I would say, because
better
it's
at
like
home.
it's better. Well, I did watch it at home.
Okay.
Got to put the subtitles on to
Yeah.
hear it and actually like read the words because it's so. I wouldn't say it's dense, but
It's dense.
It's
No, it
dense
is
to a
dense.
degree.
It is
I
dense.
think we could say that actually.
It's dense.
The concepts are out there, and to actually understand the world and what the rules are is tough to follow when the a plane is exploding.
Right.
At the same time, but it's a good movie nonetheless. I don't think there's any of the Nolan canon that I'm like, oh, I can't never watch that again.
I still need to see Insomnia. It's the only one I've never seen.
Ooh. Well,
I have it on my list. I need it to stream somewhere.
to be yeah, is it streaming anywhere? I don't think so.
No, it's not.
No. Well, maybe you can rent it for affordable.
Yeah, I
rate.
can
It's
rent it
been
for
out for
a couple bucks.
25 years.
It is. As have I. No.
That's right. We're celebrating our birthdays here. Well, this has been an incredible look, Daniel, at George's brief cameo in Minions and Monsters. Thank you for watching the clip on TikTok before joining this here. You're aware of it at the very least, and I hope it inspired you to go check out the film, at least on streaming at home. And maybe the folks too, maybe you've been inspired too to go check it out as well. But Daniel, where can the folks find you, as well as George Lucas Lost Golden Age, if they want to continue the conversation and or learn about the Kickstarter?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram at Daniel Noa _plus. Please check out our podcast at Young Indie Pod on Instagram as well. We are just kicking off recording for our 4th season. We've got an episode in the can, and we actually just found an actress who was in an episode of, actually 2 episodes of Young Indiana Jones.
Nice.
We're very excited to interview her, have her on the podcast. So we're really working on getting our 4th season up and running. And then, of course, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age. You can find us on Kickstarter. Late pledges are available. It's a great time to lock in your DVD, Blu-ray pre-order because, as we say, we'll be pursuing distribution. Once the distribution agreement is in place, who knows what that's going to look like, whether it will include a physical copy. You may not be able to get a Blu-ray later. Who can say? So now is the time to lock that in and also get yourself a copy of Secrets of the Underworld documentary, which Peter and I were actually talking about the other day because we've actually gotten so much more material on that than we ever expected to. And so we said, we should probably start cutting this thing together because we actually could, So
Is it even going to be a mini documentary at this point? It might just be a full length one.
I think we could easily do 20 minutes on it. I don't know about 2 hours, but yeah, I think, again, we've interviewed like about 20 people at this point, and it was surprising to me how many of them actually had some knowledge or insight into it. Some people I would have thought, no, they don't know anything about it. And then you're like, actually, I had a conversation with so-and-so. I don't know if this made it in, but like Matthew Jacobs, who worked on Young Indy, he's been on our podcast many times. He was also a Doctor Who writer. He wrote the 1996 Doctor Who. And Chris Chibnall, also a Doctor Who showrunner. And so they met and had an interaction. And Chibnall worked on Underworld. So Jacobs could talk about talking to Chris Chibnall about working on Star Wars Underworld. What a coincidence, right? In a crazy way. So it's really a fascinating thing. I still hope, Star Wars Underworld, the scripts are done. I would love to see a release. I don't know if it's the sort of thing George was able to have in the museum. Is it something he has any rights to at all? He may not. I don't know, right? It's all about that deal. But I mean, imagine if those could be in the library and you could, or a screening series of Star Wars Detours. Like maybe it'll never come out, but can we go to the museum and marathon them? Like there are opportunities here that I would just be very, very excited for. So.
It is possible. Kevin Smith has shown the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever at his theater. And, when those technically a private theater, they can just say, hey, these people just happened to show up on this day and we played something and people saw it. What can you do about it?
If Disney's not going to do anything with Star Wars Detours, which sounds like they're not, why can't he made them? Give him the weekend.
Yeah.
We'll go. It's just going to be the hardcore fans. It's not like, no one's going to be allowed to film it.
It's not a canon thing. It's not going to move the needle forward on anything. At best,
you'll have some blogs and articles and that's it. What's the harm?
Yep.
Let us see the Detour.
Seth Green comes out, does a little Q&A about it.
Well, he'll be speaking at Comic-Con on behalf of the museum.
Oh, hey.
So I thought
he might be
that's interesting.
Teasing Star Wars.
Wouldn't it be cool if at the Comic-Con panel he's like, and we're going to show you some Star Wars Detours.
We're bringing out George and we're doing it, baby. That would be pretty awesome. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Well, Daniel, it's been fantastic having you back on the show again. And folks, thank you very much for listening to this. We made it over 40 minutes talking about a brief 30-second cameo. So thank you all for your service. Thank you for listening. Go check out Minions and Monsters and George's cameo. Go support the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. It comes out, or opens, I should say rather, in September. You can, if you're a member, you can start applying for those preview ticket dates now. There's a members only party or gala or something like that.
And I will be there if you are listening, and
Daniel will be there
on Saturday the 5th. Please come say hello. I will be there with Peter Holmstrom, my co-producer, co-director on George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age.
You gonna have swag on hand to hand out to people?
We could.
Hey, I know you from that.
I got bookmarks. I can carry those in a coat. No
That's right. Put it in the back pocket. Be like, yeah, here's I've sat on it, a bookmark. That'd be funny. Well, folks, thank you again for listening. We'll be back in your feeds next week with a very new episode. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.